Summa Biologica Part 3. BUG-based Theology. Correcting traditional theological errors. While not truly alive, fruits and flowers manage to be both seductive and narcissistic. With their genitals in plain view, they routinely seduce true bugs and air bugs to collect their pollen, and worse, eat their seeds. Inverted, inert, and seductive, even when they're dead. With their heads cut off and thrust into vases, flowers seduce land bugs, called humans, into all kinds of moral compromise and occasionally into outright sin. Original sin was committed in the Garden of Eden, a place full of flowers, plants, and a knowing fruit tree. Wondering if knowing comes from knowing fruit, a land bug called Eve bit the fruit. God only knows where, and committed the very first sin. An animal called snake, at best a tenant on the knowing fruit tree, is widely blamed for the sin of sins. This, of course, is yet another misconception. Snakes, while not especially pretty, are not forbidden. Fruit is forbidden. Fruits come from trees, not from snakes. And they can be attractive to the point of being seductive. That's why they're forbidden. They give you knowledge and other things you don't need. Just peek at some pretty fruit's bottom, and all kinds of curiosities come to mind. We can only wonder what Eve was thinking when she looked. We know she must have seen the fruit before she bit and tasted it. But did she smell it too? If she did, then original sin, in addition to being a sin of sight, bite, and taste, is a sin of smell as well. That would mean that the knowing fruit's smell, as well as its shapely butt, contributes to knowledge, the ultimate cause of sin and death. Wellsprings of curiosity, sins of sight, smell, and taste, including touch, originate with fruits and radiate to flowers, the most notorious of which, of course, is the rose. Incidentally, there's no such thing as rose hips, because everybody knows that, headless or not, no roses have hips, and God only knows the sins that would be committed if they had. Always unseen, perfumes from flowers also cause sin. We call for a community-based scratch and sniff test on such sexually predatory scents of interest. Whatever causes sins of scent comes from fruit and flowers. Perfumes manufactured from large water bugs called whales, while certainly odoriferous, are not from fruits or flowers, and by contraposition cannot cause the sin of scent. In addition to common sense theology, we put logic back into biology too. The history of sin is indistinguishable from the history of fruits and flowers. You don't have to think twice to know that this is self-evidently true. Just think about the word cherry and see what lustful and lawless desires you conjure. Breaking or taking someone's cherry is malicious destruction of very private property on the one hand, or outright theft on the other, a sin in either case. Even thinking about the little fruit's name sets up the occasion for sin. Admittedly immoral, some plants and flowers are amoral as well, especially the poisonous ones. Headless or not, they will kill you if you eat them alive or eat their dead bodies. While not truly intelligent, plants can be cunning and will not kill you outright, but will promote euphoria, delusions, illusions, and general incapacitation if you eat or smoke them. Poppies, worn by large land bugs called veterans, are not what they're cracked up to be. Could this be the reason for the high frequency of mental illness, addiction, and homelessness suffered by many of those land bugs? And then there are the M plants, marijuana and mushrooms. How many land bugs called workers suffer lost productivity due to the influence of these plants? Inertial and inverted living, including knowing, is for plants only, not for higher bug-based forms of really living things. But traditional biologists fail to see botany's moral bankruptcy, a truth you don't have to think twice about to grasp its self-evidence. Worse still, botany has become socially acceptable. What with farm stands and flower shops all over the place. Farm stands typically display a wide variety of apples and other fruits. Adults and even children can peek at, touch, and sometimes even eat. Flower shops teasingly display flowers and plants with and without heads. Walk in and sniff. No touching allowed. No ID required. These land bugs, called farmers and florists, flagrantly parade their goods in broad daylight without regard for moral and cultural consequences. Arguably worse than fruits, flowers are with us from birth to death. Baby land bugs and their parents are surrounded by flowers even in maternity wards. Think of it. No wonder so many land bug moms have difficulty bonding with their newborn land bug babies. That silent, seemingly willless intervention of flowers in land bug family life cannot but be conducive to its ultimate dissolution. Flowers contribute to widespread land bug criminality too. How many willful murders are committed in and around flower shops? Just look at how many flowers show up at funerals, where loved land bugs we once knew lie there, cold and dead. Obviously, more than mere association or correlation, such strong causation cannot be ignored. These aren't Bohmian hidden variables or unobserved strings in string theory. They're in your nose, ontologically and epistemologically prior to all subordinate sensation. Smelling is the surest way of knowing. Makes you think of Eve again, doesn't it? To smell it is to know it. If you don't want to know it, then you shouldn't. Then if you don't, then you shouldn't smell it, for God's sake. But plant-like in their thinking, traditional biologists continue to keep their land bug heads in the sand. Either they're not bright enough to make the connection, or worse, they're morally indifferent to botanical evil. That's a lose-lose situation if there ever was one. That's botany for you. Anything but losers. We put ethics back into biology too. Now we can focus on broader philosophical issues, and in the light of our discoveries, we can correct traditional biologists' first principles. That is the end of Summa Biologica Part 3. More to come. Thank you.